My name is Christine and welcome to today's video. And today's video is going to be all about cooking with beans. Now, judging by the grocery store shelves, when I was there several weeks ago, a lot of people have some dried beans in their pantry these days and maybe don't know how to cook some of them. I actually have in front of me 5 different varieties of dried beans, and let's talk about them a little bit. I have black beans, kidney beans, garbanzo beans or chickpeas, pinto beans, and navy beans, I think this one is, or maybe like a cannellini bean, I'm not sure, a white bean. All of my beans are relatively old. I've accumulated these several years ago. They do last for several years. They just take longer to cook the older they are. I have always found great success with soaking them overnight. My mom prefers to do the quick soak method, which is to put them in a pot of water on your stove, bring it to a boil, turn it off, put a lid on, and let it sit for an hour in the hot water. And then drain it, rinse it, and cook as normal. I've done it that way, and me personally, have never found that to be as effective as soaking it overnight. So that's what I prefer to do. So I did soak, I think I only did 2 cups of beans per bowl, and I soaked all of these overnight. And the only one that I'm not doing that with is the navy beans, which you can just put into your soup or whatever it is that you're cooking and cook from dry. Now, there's a lot of different tools that you can use to help you cook your beans, from the Instant Pot, which is one of my favorites. It gives the most similar texture to a canned bean, which I really like. You can do a pot on the stove and just boil it like rice or something. I did it that way for years, and you can even do it in your crock pot. Just dump it in the beginning of the day, let it go all day, and then you have beans that are essentially similar to canned beans, and then you can use in whatever recipe that you want. So let's do a variety of methods today. Depending on what tools you have at your house, you can just, pick one and do it that way. You can even do dried beans from dry in the Instant Pot, from dry, no soaking, all the way to done in about an hour, which is amazing. If you haven't gotten yourself an Instant Pot and you have like a holiday coming up, Mother's Day, a birthday, put it on your wish list. Okay, I actually have 3. I have 2 6-quarts and 1 8-quart, and I use them all the time. I keep thinking I should maybe give one away, but I just keep using them. I love them so much. So let me get out some of my tools and get going on these beans. Let's start with our chickpeas. I'm gonna do these in the crock pot. Their texture is more solid than any other bean, so they won't be quite as creamy as a lot of these other bean varieties. And once they're cooked, you can make hummus out of it. I have a chickpea side dish that I'm gonna be making out of mine with some tahini and lemon. It's gonna be really delicious. You can even do an oven. Crispy chickpeas is pretty popular. And truthfully, once you cook all of the beans, you can do this in bulk and freeze it in individual serving sizes, or maybe one or 2 can amounts. And then when it's time to cook later and you want some cooked beans, but you don't have any canned beans, pull them out of your freezer and use them that way. That is what I do most of the time. I'll go ahead and cook up 4 pounds of kidney beans, divvy it all out, freeze it, and then when I'm ready to make chili or whatever it is, I can pull out the kidney beans, throw them in my chili, and we're all good. So I have my chickpeas. I drained them and rinsed them in cold water. And I'm not gonna put anything in here. It's just gonna be the beans and water, and that's it. I like to give my beans a lot of water to hang out in. I would say cover with at least 1 inch on top of that. And if you add salt during the cooking process, they won't cook as evenly. You can do it, I've done it before. You just have to cook it longer, and some of the beans will kind of fall apart while the other ones are just barely getting done. So just be aware of that. Okay, I'm gonna plug this in, put it on low, and I'll see this guy in about 8 hours. Next up, I have one of my pressure cookers, and I will be doing one of my favorite beans, which is red kidney beans. I adore this bean. I grew up in Texas, and I make chili a lot. It's kind of a go-to at my house, and kidney bean is my bean of choice for my chili. And so this is one I always love to have around. Once again, I rinsed it, and same thing, just cover it with water. I'm about maybe 1.5 inches above the bean. And because these are already soaked, they really only take 20 to 30 minutes or so, depending on where you live, honestly. I live at a high elevation, I'm at 5,000 feet. So I find that Instant Pot or electric pressure cookers take a little bit longer than most people say, personally. This is a Kasori brand. I find all of the off-brands to be basically the exact same as the Instant Pot. So if you see an off-brand on sale, don't be afraid to get it. Let's plug this guy in. Hey, I am gonna do my actual Instant Pot for my pinto beans. And since I have a friend who needs to know how to use the Instant Pot from scratch, basically, here's what you do. Make sure your sealing ring is in it, like it's looped all the way in. If you have more than one, make sure you have the correct pot, because even though they are technically similar, if I accidentally mess up my Instant Pot and my Kasori bowls, they don't seal correctly. So this one says Instant Pot on the side. We're good, go ahead and put it in. Ah! Don't spill the beans. You guys ever played that game? That was my favorite game as a kid. Here are my pinto beans, another absolute favorite. You can make homemade refried beans right in the Instant Pot. It's so easy. And I'm gonna be using these in a soup actually. But these are great in a lot of different dishes. They get so tender and creamy if you cook them right. And once again, you guys, cooking dried beans seriously could not be easier. I actually have about that might be too much water, about 2 inches above there. Make sure you close it, and then this top piece, turn it to seal. It's as easy as that. Jessica, this is for you. Don't be scared to use the Instant Pot. You can do it. Plug it in right here. Hopefully I don't throw a breaker with 2 Instant Pots and a crock pot. And if you hit the bean button on this one, it gives me 30 minutes at high pressure. So we're just gonna go for it. And the last bean that we are doing today, we will do on the stove, and it is my black beans. I also soaked and drained and rinsed, and I'm gonna be using these in like a taco and also just your traditional beans and rice dish. Please ignore my crumbs on my stove. Haley used some Parmesan cheese and didn't clean up after herself, but I will have her come and clean that later. So here comes just my plain water, and as you can see, I have like significantly more water than beans. Turn that on to high, get it boiling, and I'll bring it back down to a simmer for 30 to 40 minutes, depending on how they look. It's important that you pick it out and taste it just to make sure it is cooked all the way through. Okay, here are the kidney beans, fully cooked. Some of them are splitting a little bit. That means that they are definitely cooked all the way through, and we are good to drain these. Use them in whatever dish we want to. Chili is always one of my favorites. And of course you can cool them and stick them in the freezer and use them later. Here are my pinto beans. I may or may not have forgotten about these and let them go a little long. As you can see, they're kind of falling apart just a little bit. But hey, if you're making refried beans, no big deal. And like I said, I'm gonna be putting these in a soup where I want them to kind of be super, super soft and fall apart. So these are good to drain and freeze or use in a recipe. Here are the black beans totally cooked, and I will say, truthfully, if you don't have an Instant Pot, you don't need one to cook dried beans. I really, really like the Instant Pot for cooking dried beans. I feel like if you can afford it in any way, being able to cook beans really, really well and evenly, worth every penny. Because this does work, I just don't feel like it cooks it as evenly. So here are my black beans. I will set these up to stick in the fridge or freezer, and they will be good anytime I need black beans for a recipe. Okay, the chickpeas are now done in the crock pot. They're still gonna like kind of sound like they're hard. I don't know if you can hear that. But if you take one with your finger and squish it, it should squish into mush. And that's when you know when these are done. So you can blend these up for a hummus, or you can make the little side dish that I will be making right now. This chickpea salad comes from Alex Gornishelli's book, At Home Chef, I believe it's called. Oh, The Home Cook, I'm sorry. And I will leave a link down below for you, but all we have in it is our cooked chickpeas, some lemons, a red onion, tahini, green onions, coriander, and a red wine vinegar. I'm gonna char the onion in a pan, add the chickpeas, saute it together, and mix everything else as my dressing. It's as easy as that.
You might be the one taking me home. One thing really do want. You see that you're the worst, but I don't know. Is that true? We both feel
That's gonna wrap up the bean cooking portion of this video. Now, if you wanna see what I'm doing with all of the beans that I cooked in this video, except for the chickpeas, you're gonna wanna see tomorrow's video if you're watching this video on the day that it uploads. If you are not watching this video on the day that it uploads, I will leave that video linked below for you. I am using all those beans in a lot of different recipes based on cooking out of my pantry that will go up tomorrow. Or if you're seeing this video later, in the video down below in the description box. I hope you are not scared to try cooking dried beans at your own house. Something I've been doing for a really long time. And I will say I've done it in the crock pot for years and years and on the stovetop. And when I invested in my very first Instant Pot like 3 years ago, I got it on a Black Friday deal where it was about $50-ish. I have never gone back basically to cooking beans any other way than in the Instant Pot. It is my favorite way to do it. So if you can get one of those sales on Amazon where it's like around $50, I think it's a really useful tool in the kitchen if for nothing else than cooking dried beans. They're really cheap, you can do it in bulk, you can freeze it for later, and it cooks them so evenly, and then you can use them in any dish that you want. So if you guys enjoyed the video, I hope you would give it a thumbs up for me, and tell me down below in the comments what is your favorite bean to eat and in what dish. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys in the next video.